haul of new features. There's big changes in store for the Hunter's Call, who've expanded beyond their sea posts and set up shop at the many outposts across the Sea of Thieves. You'll also encounter deadly new threats out on the waves.
I need to go fishing. I wonder if I can make a Splashtail glidebait. So in the video game, Sea of Thieves, there's a fish called a Splashtail. There's several species, but the most prolific is the Ruby Splashtail. You can find a Ruby Splashtail during the day or night, in a storm, in the fog, in the shores of gold, in a shipwreck, or outside an island, just not in any fresh water. You can fish for them with a worm or a leech or a grub or nothing at all. They're so ravenous they'll bite a bare hook. The only way I know how to build fishing lures is because I watched Marling Baits. Everything I'm doing here is just a copy of what he does on his channel. He's a talented lure maker, and sometimes he gets some crazy ideas, so you might want to go check out his channel. The sanding attachment on the Dremel is like the greatest invention ever. I'm just marking where the fins go, cutting them out with the knife. Yes, I'm being careful. This little slot's kind of difficult to get into, but fortunately I have a 1/8-inch chisel. I'm not pushing very hard. This is not the way you would normally use a chisel, pointed toward your own hand. So do what I say, not what I'm showing you here. I'm using polycarbonate for the fins. The dorsal fin is a little too long, so I'm just going to edit it back so it fits on the back piece. And finally, I can finish cutting all the way through, so we now have 2 pieces. I'm using stainless steel wire to make eye screws and pivot points. You know when Marling Baits is going to make a lure in one day? He declares it a one-day build, and it's like, one day! And then he manages to build a lure in one day, actually in a couple of hours. How does he do that? This is exhausting. So I've watched Marling Baits drill holes in his lures using a Forstner bit and the drill press. I don't know how he does it. I can't get this to go much further in. So I'm going to use the drill press for what it's for. Time to pour the lead. I've filled this with baking soda, and if you add super glue, it turns into a rock solid plug. The best super glue to use is the thin type for this. It goes into the baking soda really quickly, and it also helps if you capture it all on camera. The etching attachment on a Dremel is like the greatest invention ever. I use the blue tape trick when I'm mixing up 2-part epoxy. Just put down blue tape, mix up your epoxy, and when it's all dry, you can peel the tape up and throw it away. Now I can use a smaller Forstner bit to mark out where the eyes are going. Everything gets a super glue bath. I wish I had an airbrush right now. Permanent red. I could really use an airbrush right now. Light magenta. Cobalt blue. I'm so glad I don't have an airbrush right now, because I would be trying to paint all these dots with an airbrush, and then I'd mess up, and I'd have to start over again. Now, all the splash tails in the game are shaped the same, but they have different color patterns. There's 5 altogether, but we're just doing the Ruby one. And to make things even more complicated, the spots on one side are different than the spots on the other. I'm adding a regular lure fish eye. It's got a little sparkle. It gets a coat of UV resin. The pivot points get glued into place. There you have it. Look at it. It's a Ruby Splashtail glide bait. So let's head out to Merrick's secret fishing spot. Whoa, fish on. Come here, get out of those weeds. And there you have it, proof that amber plentyfins love Ruby Splashtail glide baits. I wonder what megalodons they were talking about in that video. Oh, on to the next project.